Kia ora, good evening. There was more bad news for the dairy sector as prices continued their downward trend at the global dairy trade auction overnight.
Dairy prices tumbled a further 7.3% overnight, prompting the ANZ Bank to issue a prediction that there will be a further decline in the price per kilogram of dairy milk solids returned at the farm gate. The ANZ predicted return has been lowered 40 cents to $4.85 per kilogram for the current season. This is assuming prices stabilise and bounce back slightly. An ANZ Bank spokesperson says farmers will struggle to meet the cost of milk production at $4.85, which will in turn adversely affect their discretionary spending. Prices this low have not been recorded since May 2012 and is equal to payouts between 2004 and 2006.
A safer, more efficient section of State Highway 1 is expected after construction of a passing lane near the township of Woodlands is completed. Construction is expected to start later this month on the new Woodlands passing lanes on State Highway 1, about 12 kilometres north of Invercargill. The Transport Agency has let a $1.85 million contract to South Roads Limited to build the Woodlands passing lanes. Transport Agency Otago Southland Highway Manager Ian Duncan says limited passing opportunities on this stretch of highway are a source of frustration for drivers, which in turn has led to some crashes caused by risky overtaking manoeuvres. He says planned expansion of Fonterra's Edendale plant will also add to the number of heavy vehicles using the state highway. The Woodlands passing lanes are expected to be operational by the end of September next year. The Southland region's year-on-year reported crime statistics have kept falling. There were 28% fewer crimes in 2014 than there were in 2010. Crime was down 5% in the region last year, 1.8% better than the national figure, which is down 3.2%. Southland District Commander Lane Todd says the results are down due to cooperation with other groups, technology and mobility.
Certainly our mobility, which was one of our main projects for the national organisation when we introduced that, is having a huge impact on us. So what we've been able to do is reinvest that time that we had freed up from our staff doing less going to less crimes, actually doing a lot more prevention work, and that has another flow-on effect. So what you'll typically see now is more staff actually walking the beat. They'll be going to hotspots like our Friday, Saturday nights, working with the Mary Wardens and community patrols, but also during the day when traditionally we might get an increase in shoplifting school holidays, we'll have more staff actually walking the beat, so it has that prevention arm to it.
So it is all about prevention. You've stated that the prevention first strategy is the way forward.
Prevention first strategy is the national operating strategy, and that's something that certainly in Southland we've been investing quite heavily in over the last 12 to 18 months. And the drive around that is just having a lot more focus on our victims, but also looking at how can we actually be preventing crime. So do we need to be working with other agencies to do that? Do we need to be working with the council? And we're doing a lot more of that now, and that's certainly having a positive effect.
An increase in burglaries of 25% or 183 in the last calendar year. What do you attribute this to?
Yeah, on the face of it, that certainly doesn't look positive, but basically we've got a new national recording standard, so the burglary definition has changed slightly. So that's what's attributed to that increase from a statistical point of view. But what I can say is our overall burglaries, when you put that into context, hasn't increased. It's just that new definition has put more offences that we would have had potentially as thefts, for example, and are now coded as burglary because that's under the new national recording standard.
Let's look ahead to the next year. Are you aiming for this figure to be repeated next year?
We would certainly, if we look at the consistency that we've had for the last 4 consecutive years, we would expect to have that same sort of figure. But of course, as we know, when the crime is reducing further, it is a lot harder for us to keep that momentum going. But 1 or 2 things that we certainly are focusing on for the next 12 months is family violence. That's something that has continued to increase, and also the seriousness of the family violence. And that is a concern for us. So what we certainly will be doing is focusing on that, and in particular, and I'm reasonably confident that the rest of the crime types that we look at are actually still tracking quite well. So there will be a bigger focus on family violence.
Is there a risk that you're actually doing too well down here in personnel, that we may actually lose personnel? Is that a possibility?
I guess we can never say never, but that's certainly not an indication that I've been given that would be looking at reducing our staff numbers. What we certainly are concentrating on is working smarter. It's no secret we've had a flatline budget for the last couple of years, and I understand that will continue. So we have to continuously look at improvement and continuously looking at what we are doing. And that's why I said earlier is that we're certainly reinvesting the time that we've freed up into doing prevention activities. So certainly the staff are still busy, but they're busy doing prevention activities versus perhaps attending crimes that they were the same numbers they were perhaps attending 4 or 5 years ago.
Stay with us after the break, a chance to find out what it's really like to sleep rough, plus what it takes to make great coaches and athletes. Welcome back. 14 Hours Homeless is an upcoming event where people can experience what it's like to sleep rough. There are layers of displaced people in the south, including those who have no certainty about where they'll sleep tonight or tomorrow night, couch surfers who live off the goodwill of friends, and squatters. On World Homeless Day, those involved in the Breathing Space Trust are hoping to break down the barriers and raise the plight of those homeless in the city.
When the Salvation Army Men's Refuge shut down, we started to see people looking for help and found out that we couldn't necessarily offer it. We couldn't find them places to sleep. We couldn't address the other issues. It's really hard to get employment if you can't shower, if you can't be rung on the phone. And so a bunch of us from a variety of different organisations have got together and thought maybe if we could catch people for about 3 days, if we could house someone for 3 days for that emergency place, then we might be able to connect them with WINS, and we might be able to kind of connect them with maybe mental health. We've got great social systems in New Zealand. They are sometimes overwhelmed, they are sometimes slow to respond. We think maybe if we could provide a 3-day breathing space, then we might be able to connect people into the things that will help.
The funding that you're looking for, how much and what kind of form will the trust take?
As a trust, we think that if we can get a year's worth of running costs, then we'll employ a support worker and we'll try and have a place for people to stay. We figure it's going to cost us about $90,000. We're about halfway there at the moment. And it just very shortly we'll be running 14 Hours Homeless, and part of that is to raise the profile and seek a bit of funding so that we can continue towards our goal.
Basically, it's an initiative that they're wanting to get teams of 4 or 5 people together just to experience in a secure location what it's like to be in a homeless situation. So you've got the likes of either on the couch, in the car, or on the piece of cardboard outside sort of thing that we're looking at doing on Friday night, Friday the 10th of October, from 6 o'clock till about 8 o'clock in the morning. Realistically, we just want to get a group of people together and go through the experience. We'll be looking at activities and events and that to tie in with it, and do a presentation so that people get more of an understanding of what homelessness is, because it's not just the people sleeping out on the streets.
So if people want to experience being homeless for a night, they should go where?
To the Salvation Army on Tay Street there. That'll be the main depot, and then we're going to be looking at other spots around the city that we can put people up for the night, so to speak, in a safe environment, making sure that local police and that type of stuff are aware that what's going on, so that we can just do checks and that type of thing. So we want to make sure that everybody's safe and secure.
Environment Southland to set the rates for the 2014 to 15 year, reflecting core services and work programs in this year's annual plan. Overall rates have gone up 6.72% this year. However, some ratepayers may experience a decrease in rates due to lower property values. For the majority of ratepayers whose rates will rise, it will be no more than $50 extra per year. Dairy farmers pay an additional dairy differential rate to help pay for dairy support services. The rate's revenue for the 2014 to 15 year will be approximately $15.8 million, accounting for nearly 52% of the council's total revenue. Rates contribute to ES's work programs and core services, including flood protection, water and air quality programs, biosecurity and education. Australian coaching consultant Wayne Goldsmith is in the South taking a series of workshops to impart his coaching knowledge at Sports Southland. He says motivation, commitment and the cumulative effect of effort are key attributes to creating top athletes and coaches.
Coaching and athletic performance is very much about motivation and commitment. So a lot of people will say, I'm motivated to be the best, or I'm motivated to be really excellent, I want to be the best that I can be. But then when it comes down to the commitment that they're prepared to make to be the best, they'll say, well look, I've only got 1 day a week, or I've got 2 days a week to fulfil my athletic ambitions. Whereas what we try to do now with coaches is to say to them, where do you want to go with this? What sort of a coach do you want to be? I want to be the best in the world, might be the reply. Say, okay, well this is what it's going to take. There's that correlation between level of motivation, level of commitment, are the same with coaches, same with athletes. So that again, if you're working with an athlete says, the only reason I play netball is I really like my friends, then you're not expecting a lot of commitment from them. So, well look, come once or twice a week, pass the ball, let's have some fun. If someone says, I want to play for the Ferns, I want to win a Commonwealth Games gold medal, I want to be the best in the world, then we guide them through that process as well, which is a very, very different set of skills, a very, very different level of commitment.
A fair bit of psychology that goes with that too, about supporting them through that.
Yeah, absolutely. A few weeks ago I was lucky enough to spend some time with the US swimming team just before the Pan Pac Swimming Championships. And I got to speak with Michael Phelps' coach, Bob Bowman, and we're talking about philosophy and what makes a great athlete, what makes a great coach. And it was a great response from Bob. He said, in any given situation, a great athlete or a great coach, given the choice between doing things the easy way or the hard way, they'll do it the hard way. And he said, for example, in the morning, the easy way is to hit the snooze button or roll over and go back to sleep. The hard way is get up, get moving, get rolling. The easy way is to go and ask mum for $20 for lunch. The hard way is to make your own lunch, salad rolls, fruit, yoghurt, fresh water in your water bottle and clean up afterwards. He said it's really interesting that if you notice the qualities of great athletes, trying to explain why they're so good at what they do, they've given the choice between the easy path and the hard path. They take the hard path. And then the cumulative effect of that, always doing things the right way and making the hard decisions in preparation, means that when they're playing and when they're competing, they can do anything they need to. So it's a really important lesson, I think, to pass on for athletes and coaches about doing things the right way or the hard way.
Weather's along next, followed by sport. From the news crew, it's good night.